Okay. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Getting to Know Nuendo. I'm Lee Riley, and in this episode, we're going to look at some very advanced functions that are integrated into Nuendo. For example, ReConform. Okay, so let's take a look. Let me get my camera situated there, down the right-hand side this time. I was on the left-hand side the other time. Okay, so right here, we have a typical section of any given audio post-production project. So, for example, we have some ADR in here. We have some ADR tracks. We've got some backgrounds that are cut into the scenes. We have some Foley that's already cut into the scenes. We have some music that's cut into the scenes. Okay, so let's take a look at what it actually is. Okay, so the guy's going to sneak up on the back of this guy. Oh. Okay, so it's an action scene. But there's a problem right here, right? He's been grabbed from behind, and all of a sudden he gets smashed on the head with a bottle. Where did that bottle come from? Well, we're thinking in audio post-production land here. We're thinking, well, okay, this is a mistake. It's been overlooked, etc. And then we're cutting all these sound effects in, and lo and behold, we get a phone call or a text or an email from the post-production supervisor or the editor and saying, hey, we've got another version of the video for you to work on. So you people out there, you probably have been through this before. And if you don't have the software to help you with this is a nightmare. I've been in situations before a long time ago where I had to do this kind of manually, and it is an absolute nightmare. But with Nuendo, you don't have to worry about that because you have ReConform built in. Okay, so what is ReConform? Well, it works on edit decision lists. Okay, so I'm going to bring up ReConform, the ReConform window. That can be found within the project window, project menu, should we say, and there it is, lo and behold. Most of the good stuff is right inside that project drop-down. Okay. So what do we need, technically, for this to work properly? Well, we need some kind of edit decision list, an EDL from somewhere. We need two EDLs. So we're going to have the original EDL that we used, and then we're going to need the new EDL. Okay? So I'm thinking, well, okay, where are we going to get that from? Well, we're going to get that from the editor, right? Or you can actually request a change EDL, and that will work just as well. Okay, so let's import some EDLs, and let's go to work. Okay, right at the top of this window here, we have an import EDL, and this is the old list, right? This is our source that we're actually watching right now. So as if by magic, I happen to have what our editors have given us, right, in this demo. So I'm gonna actually import that version 1, which is the EDL of this session. Okay, I'm gonna hit OK, and there it is. Those are 3 IDs, 3 sections. So I need my new EDL to create my change EDL. Okay. So in this example, that's what I'm going to do. So the editor sends off this version 2 with the video, right? And says, okay, here you go. Here are all the changes. So I was saying, great. Here we go, right? We've all been in that situation. But it happens. It's all part of audio post-production. It's constantly being changed until it's ready to be sold. So here we go. Look at this. We have 7 IDs in this side and 3 IDs in that side. So what I need to do is generate a change. But before we look at that, let me just explain a few things in this box itself at the top. I'm feeling all hunky-dory right now. Everything is cool because it's all green, right? And when it's green, that means everything is valid. If something was red, it would be an error, right? Red is generally what we would use for anything as an error. Okay. So, right. With that out the way, we're all good. Everything is great about these EDLs. The IDs are there for the events. Each event has its own ID. Okay, that makes sense, right? And the role itself, it's coming from something called tape_01. The clip name doesn't happen to be in this one, and there's an EDL file to confirm we're actually using the right one. Now, unfortunately, it's not like a normal spreadsheet, whereas you can actually open up the columns. So what we have to do, fortunately, this is a resizable window. So now I can open that up and say, okay, that is the version 1, that is the version 2 on the other side. Great. I'm good to go. Right. Next column along is the transition. So the transition itself is, well, okay, what does that mean? Well, in this case, it could be one of three things. This one is C, which means it's a regular cut. It's a straight cut. If it was a dissolve, it would be a letter D. If it was a wipe, a visual effect wipe, then it's going to be W. Okay? Great. So the SRC in and SRC out. So those are the sources, in timecode, out timecode. The destination, in timecode, and out timecode. Now, there's no change in this because this is what we're looking at in our session. It's identical over here for the minute because there's no changes been made. Okay, enough about that. So I've talked about the actual window itself. So let's go ahead and generate the physical EDL. Awesome. So now it's taking those differences and it's previewing for me what those differences are going to be. So I can go through any of these IDs, these events, and you can see a few things changing, right? Namely, to the right here is the most important thing. I'm going to double check this because I want these thumbnails to be identical. If these thumbnails are identical frames, that's fantastic. There's no errors. Everything is cool. The EDL works. That's it. Every single one of these is the identical frame. Okay, they have different start times and end times, but that's what's going to happen, right? I can see the out time and the out frame of whatever it's going to be. Right now, these are identical, and you can see that down here. I'll get to that in a second. But on the second one, you can actually see that, okay, it's going to shift by nearly 14 seconds. All right, and you can double check that there as well. So we're all good to go. As I said here, you can see the source itself in this window, and you can see the destination. The destination is going to be our new version. Okay, so the next one, you can see that this clip down the bottom is now going to move backwards in time. Backwards, forwards. I guess forwards is before, right? And backwards is afterwards. It all depends on your perspective, right? The third one is we're looking at the same kind of clip, and it's moving backwards. And it almost looks like this here is going to be an insert. There's going to be a gap, right? So for those of us in audio post-production, we're thinking, okay, so that's more work now, right? It's something we've got to fill in with sound. If I look at this one here, you'll see that is going off to there, and this is going off to here. I'm checking my videos. Everything's cool. Great. Okay. Let's see. I just wanted to talk about one more thing here. Right. Now, VFX shots. Let's say I talked about those before, the dissolves or wipes. I believe they show up as green here, if I remember rightly. So this is normal blue and white, and then green would be your VFX shots. Now, if you were a brave soul and you wanted to actually, let's say there was an error somewhere and you think you wanted to fix it manually, you can do that. If I right-click, I can take certain segments and heal them. In other words, put them together and sew them together, or extend those events. I could extend this until the next event. If I was on this one, I could right-click it. I could extend to previous, next, and it basically will expand outwards. Okay? So I can manually edit it. If I wanted to manually do this by changing the time code itself, that's one thing I can actually do. Okay. I can actually take two of them and do this as well. Or I can delete something in here if I don't really need to do that. So that's one way of manually doing something. Cool? Now, this is where the fun starts. Excellent. So notice everything that I've been doing here. Nothing's changed. Even when I clicked on a particular event, nothing actually changed in the timeline. Okay. But if I hit this preview button, now we start to look at something different. The preview is going to say, hey, this is what your conform is going to look like. So it's going to tell you ahead of time what that is going to look like without it being too destructive right now, right? This is a good thing. I want to double check everything, make sure everything's good, make some notes, and then we'll move forward. Okay. When I touched and activated that button, you'll notice that right here, I'm going to move this out the way a second. Right here, something happened in my session. Okay. If I start moving around, now it's selecting. Remember how Nuendo actually takes cycle markers or cycle events and creates those. That's the length of each clip. Okay. So that gives me an idea where those clips are going to change. And if you notice right here, it's automatically created a new video track and a lot of different markers. We can't really see any markers right now because what we're viewing is our source. We're not viewing the destination. So the destination part is going to show us all of those changes. If I click on destination, that's different. Now what that is, if I put that back up here, this window looks completely different now. We've imported the video automatically, right? It's automatically come in to the session. And we have all these destination markers. We have all these different markers that I'm going to explain in a second. Also, look at it's previewed. We haven't done anything permanent yet, but we can see that we have now we start to see the changes in picture. And I go through all these. Okay. There's one right here. Let's go back to this because I'd like to actually start talking about the locators in conjunction with the physical markers. Okay, so these markers are right here, and because I'm in destination, what it's actually done, it's locked everything. I cannot move any of this information until I reconform. I can actually go back into that change EDL and try and do some manual edits, but this is locked. And how it does this, it's very sneaky. It's graphically telling you that here it is in time, but it's actually, in actuality, 24 hours ahead. Oh, 24 hours ahead if you're looking back at this way, right? So, awesome. Here are some of my markers. The destinations are showing me the length of the clips and where they are. Okay? Those are my destinations. Those are the three main events. Destinations. Now I have a couple of inserts as well. Okay? Those inserts, let's have a look at this. What's happened is the new change, and we saw that on the change EDL. Remember, I mentioned this earlier when I brought this in. There was going to be a gap because that chunk was going to move out, and it's going to leave a gap behind. Okay, sweet. We're going to put that up here. I'll come back to it in a second. I'm going to keep you on the edge of your seats, hopefully. So let's take a look at this. What have they put on their changes in video? Here we go. Aha. So now we insert a couple of bad guys maybe, who knows. These guys are going to talk. We need to ADR these lines or need to find the location sound at least, right? And this might be a very important conversation that the director said, you know what, we need this conversation here. It makes sense for us to have it here. Right. Also, guess what? They've put an insert shot. There we go. There's that bottle. There's an insert shot of the guy grabbing the bottle. So now we're going to have to do Foley for that. Maybe a scrape or something, a reach and whatever it may be, a shuffle. So those are the things that we add into the middle of our insert. We need to fill that hole, right? We need to fill that hole with whatever it may be. Okay. Something else I wanted to mention, because this got separated out, we have something called an audio snippet. Okay, that's an audio snippet marker. What that does, it's warning us of something. And it does that automatically. It's a preference that I said to use. And it is telling us that in the Foley, there is a clip that you need to watch out for. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up a bit. And you'll see that this clip got pulled apart right there. And it's locked. I can't move it. It's just there for me to view. It got pulled apart from its parent over here, obviously because we've inserted a chunk of time. So we need to pay close attention to that. Do we need to delete it? Probably. Or we need to do something about it. But at least it's warned you about it, which is fantastic, right? Awesome. Okay, a couple more things here on the markers. You can also put your own memos in. So let's say as a background editor, I don't know if those guys are waiting in the car right outside the street, across the street. Are they in the same environment? Is it just simply a perspective change? So I can make a note myself. And if you've been following me all this time, you know that all I have to do is make sure that Nuendo is cycling before that happens. I can just touch that one. Let's say I want to make a note there. I'm going to hit my quick key, my customized key, which is P. All I'm doing is selecting a certain area, and then I'm going to click on my add cycle marker. And there we go. And I can put a note in there, say, okay, is this background, are we in the same scene? Is it across town? What is it? Cool. Excellent. Okay, I keep looking up just to see, but I guess with it being St. Patrick's Day, not a lot of people are watching tonight. Oh, well. You can always watch it at another time, right? Anyway, I'm glad you're here anyway. Awesome. So those are our memos. Those are our markers. Okay. There's a couple more of them that I haven't talked about, right? And you can see right here that there's an automation warning one. And, yeah, I want to talk about that. So, and then we'll call it a night, actually, because this is, it doesn't take too long to explain. But there's a preference window right here. That's the open ReConform settings. Okay. So I can actually decide what I want to do in these situations. And we talked about the heal processing before. It's going to determine how it heals. The applying the ReConform to, I'm probably going to say I'm here just watching. Thanks for doing this. You are welcome. I love doing this. So, and I like people joining in. So I'm going to say I probably want to use all tracks. In case I could use selected tracks, right? I can go in there and use selected tracks, and then just to see how that looks in previews before I do anything. I don't say destructive, because is anything really, really destructive? Well, it is, but most of it is not, right? So I could do selected tracks or all tracks. Right. Because this is a timeline, right, we're talking about. So we probably want to do all tracks. But we can still have the option. Right. Create virgin territories. Now, this is not some unexplored land that we haven't found yet, that no one's got to with a boat. This in Nuendo kind of makes sense. And it is something to do with automation, right? And I can actually show you this by talking about the warning markers as well. This is hand in hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up here again. Everyone's lurking. That's fine. It's good. Lurking is better than other things, I find. But anyway, so what has got... Let me see if I can close this a second. I think it's my number 2. There it is. Automation warning. So the automation warning is saying, well, okay, something's happened in our automation, and it tells us it's in the music track. So if I open up this music folder, okay, and I take a quick gander at this, and that's, of course, is our scene here, but it butts up against this scene here. So the guy's, he's getting up off the floor, whatever it is, and then it's really the same scene, right? But it's been shifted forward and butted up against each other. So guess what? If we drop down this automation lane here, we're going to see this automation suddenly get chopped off, ramped up. So it's saying, well, okay, watch out for this, because you're going to have a music track that sounds like this. Because you got that gun effect, right? This, right? And does that work? Well, we've got to watch out for that. How cool is that? That it says, okay, watch out for this. There's an automation warning. So you can change it, right? And go to work on gradually changing it. Now, what is that got to do with Virgin Territories? Right. What happened in our, let's see, let me go back up here. Is it this one? Or is it number 4? I guess it doesn't really matter. Yes, it does. Why did that disappear? There it is. Something had to go wrong live, right? It wasn't that bad this time. So notice that those automation pieces are in there, but there's some automation from previous, and then there's a gap. It's uncharted territory. It's not been touched yet because it never existed before, right? So there's a line there's an imaginary line that goes across. This, when I first saw this in Nuendo, I thought this just completely blew my mind. So the fact that I can adjust this uncharted area without affecting the rest of my automation. And there's no ramp up. There's nothing that, and it's so annoying, right? Trying to get in there or rewrite or redo your automation. And that is a fantastic thing, right? That's what Virgin Territory is. And that's what our automation warning does. Okay. Let's take a look here. We've done heal. We've done apply, ReConform to overlap. And I think we've just only got one more thing to do. And you know what that is. It's actually start the ReConform. We're happy. We're checked. We've done so much of this stuff. And we're happy with everything. And it's all good. We are ready to change picture. We are ready to commit to this. Right? I'm going to bring this back down here and show you that, of course, that's the start ReConform. I'm going to look at the top. Thank you. Scott says, thank you for doing this stuff. I'm a Nuendo user, but don't really work in post. Love exploring these features and your workflow through the series. Very cool. Thank you for being here. Before we do this, though, I've got to take the preview off because we're not going to preview. We're actually going to commit this this conform now. We're happy with it. Everything's good. Okay, I'm going to move this out the way so you can see it in all of its glory. Okay, there we go. Let's bring this music track back up again. And here we go. Start ReConform. Boom. And that's it. We've done all the previews. We've checked. We're happy with everything. Now it's physically committed the conform. Imagine trying to do that. Oh boy, manually. Okay. You don't have to use a third-party application. It's built into Nuendo, and it's a feature. Cool. So I'm going to look up at my screen up here, and I'm going to hide that. And I'm going to look up and see if there's any questions. I know it takes a few seconds for questions to happen. There are no questions, just fantastic comments and people liking what's happening. So with that in mind, have a very, very safe St. Patrick's Day over here. It's the 17th. And I'd like to thank you for watching. And hope you're going to join us next month when we talk about some more post-production magic. Well, thank you and take care.